like to welcome you all on behalf of UID in this important event. Today we are going to commemorate the 15th of July coup attempt in Turkey, which happened 3 years ago and which cost the life of more than 300 Turkish citizens, and also more than 3,000 Turkish citizens have been injured during this coup attempt. And today we have 4 distinguished guests with us. First, I would like to introduce them shortly. Mr. Zafer Sırakaya, member of Turkish Parliament. He traveled from Turkey to attend this panel. Welcome. And we have Mr. Ambassador Ümit Yalçın, His Excellency, Turkish Ambassador to United Kingdom. We have Abdurrahim Boynukalın, AK Parti London representative, and also we have Enes Babacan. He is a survivor of the coup attempt. He was in Atatürk Airport during the coup attempt, resisting the coup, when he was shot by the coup soldiers. And we are happy that he is with us today. So, without taking much of your time, I would like to start with Mr. Zafer Sırakaya. And the floor is yours, Mr. Sırakaya. Yes, thanks.
Dear His Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, at the beginning of my speech I would express my sadness because of the loss of 3 soldiers in Turkey, because of the terrorist attack that the PKK has done. I convey my condolences to the family, and I hope that they will rest in peace. At the beginning of my speech, I will also express my gratitude and my thankfulness to the Union of European Turkish Democrats to explain also my way of thinking regarding the coup attempt that occurred in Turkey on 15th of July. I will start with the First World War that occurred not just in Europe but also around the world. The main reason that was the reason for this World War was actually the struggle and also the dispute between the European countries before the First World War. This dispute also was the reason of the Second World War, and the European countries had to find a way in order to find a solution between the disputes that occurred between the European countries. That's why they founded the Council of Europe in 1949. It was just 10 countries that were the founder of the Council of Europe. After then, Turkey and Greece became also a part of this Council of Europe, and nowadays we have nearly 48 countries that are a part of the Council of Europe, and 28 of them are the European Union members. So when we just give a look what are the main values of this Council of Europe, we see many principles, but the 3 principles are the main principles. The first one is that the democracy is one of the most important things that the Council of European countries has to fulfill. The democracy, with the democracy we mean we have fair and open elections, that the political parties has to exist, and also the pluralistic political parties should be a part of this democratic countries. The second one is the human right. All the members of the Council of European countries has to ratify the European Convention for Human Rights. What we mean by the human rights is the right to convene, the freedom of expression, the freedom of religion, and the freedom of thought. And of course, a free trial as well. The third one is the rule of law. With the rule of law, we mean that an independent judiciary has to exist. There should be a separation of power. That means the legislative, the judiciary, the judiciary, and the third one was?
Executive.
The executive. Thank you. Should be separately acted. So, in a democratic country, no trial has to be excessively or arbitrarily. So we are speaking about the rule of law, we are speaking about the values, such as freedom of expression, such as freedom of thought, freedom of religion, right to convene. And when we look about the European countries nowadays, do we have a European continent that is in line with these values? According to the last survey that the Bertelsmann Foundation has done in Germany, 1 of 2 members of the German community think that Islam is a threat for the European countries. And they also think that the Muslims are a potential terrorist in Europe. According to another survey that has been done in Austria, 25% of the Austrian community does not want a Muslim neighbor. So, I think in 2017, 950 mosques were attacked by the racist organization or by the racist people. So, according to the last elections that has been done in Europe, it was, I think, the European Parliament election, the far right has gained again votes. If I'm not right, the Brexit parties were the first party in Britain as well. In Italy, the far right party became also the first party. In France as well. So we have a rise of the far right parties, not just in Britain, but also across the Europe. So another point is, how is the position of the European countries regarding the terrorist organization? Do we have a common approach regarding the terrorist organization? A unified approach? Or are we making a distinguishing between the bad terrorists and between the good terrorists? Are we going to make any differentiation between the terrorist that is harmful for us or which is not harmful for us? Now, is that an organization just a terrorist organization in that region where it occurs and is harmful for those people as long as it is not harmful for us? So Turkey is a European country. Turkey is a NATO member. Turkey is a member of the Council of Europe. Turkey is a country where Islam and democracy is compatible. And Turkey is a member that wants to become a member of the European Union, a candidate member of the European Union. If we give a look about the history of the Turkish Republic, we see that Turkey has witnessed many coup attempts. The first one was in 1960. The second one was in 1971. It was more or less a coup attempt. The third one was in 1980, done by the chief of the general staff called Kenan Evren. He abolished the parliament, he suspended the constitution, and he banned also the political parties as well as the trade unions. And after then, what we witnessed in Turkey was the postmodern coup attempts that occurred in 1997. I was a student at that time. And after then, we saw another coup attempt, postmodern coup attempt, in 2007. And the last one was in 2016. Done or started by the FETÖ terrorist organization. So we had some problems in our history. So it was one of the reasons for these coup attempts were that we didn't have a stable political system in Turkey. That's why we shifted also from the parliamentary system to the presidential system. We had times in which a coalition government could not be done. In 1979, it was not able for the Turkish parliament to elect the president after 115 rounds in the parliament. It was not able even to elect the president of the Grand National Assembly for 5 months. Could you imagine a country where you don't have a president and where even you could not elect a president for the parliament? So, by the presidential system, it is necessary to make a coalition in the community. You have to gain more than 50% in order to be elected as the president. Besides this, I would also mention the struggle, the fight of Turkey regarding the terrorist organization as well. There is a PKK terrorist organization, there is a Daesh terrorist organization, last but not least, there is also the FETÖ terrorist organization. The PKK terrorist organization occurred after the First World War, after the Cold War. It is a Stalinist and a Leninist terrorist organization which had nothing to do with the democratic values. And after a while, it went also to an ethnic and separatist terrorist organization. We are speaking about a terrorist organization that killed more than 40,000 people. Among those people, we have pupils, we have students, we have families, we have fathers, and also military personnel as well. They are saying that they are for the interest of the Kurdish people, but among those people who they have killed, there are also Kurdish people as well. I went several times to Diyarbakir, also to Hakkari, and then I witnessed several times that they killed Kurdish people as well as Turkish people. The ethnicity does not play any important role for them. Regarding the terrorist organization, another point is that these terrorist organizations are active also in different names. In Germany, they call themselves as NAVDEM, because PKK is not just accepted as a terrorist organization in Turkey, but also in the European countries. So we have to have a common approach regarding the terrorist organization, as I said at the beginning of my speech, because those terrorist organizations have the possibility to be active in front of the Council of European Parliament and also in front of the European Parliament. During my time, where I was the representative of the AK Party in Brussels, I could see that the PKK terrorist organization could organize an exhibition in front of the European Parliament. And those people who see that are really asking whether the European countries are reliable regarding their struggle with these terrorist organizations. Another point is that these terrorist organizations have also affiliated organizations at the YPG and PYD. So we see in the last time that many European countries question the link between PKK terrorist organization and PYD. But if they give a look to the bylaw of the PYD, it's very open to see that there is a close link between these two organizations. The instruction was given by the terrorist organization's leader, so-called leader. And if you give a look to the bylaw of the PYD, you can see that anyone who wants to become a member of PYD, first of all has to accept the terrorist organization's leader, so-called leader, Abdurrahim, as his leader. And the second one is that anyone who accepts Öcalan as a leader has also to accept the method of the so-called democratic values of Öcalan. Do you need any other reason to see the close link between these two terrorist organizations? The second one is the Daesh terrorist organization. Daesh terrorist organization occurred in 2003. Turkey accepted Daesh as a terrorist organization very early in 2005, and Turkey was the only country who has started the fight against this terrorist organization on the ground. There was the Eurofrat operation done by Turkey, where more than 3,000 Daesh terrorists were killed, because Daesh was and still is a threat to the national security of Turkey. They started a bomb attack in Gaziantep, where more than 50 persons were killed, and also in Ankara, where more than 200 people were killed. So we are struggling not just with PKK, not just with PYD, YPG, but also with the Daesh terrorist organization. Because after the start of the Syrian war, more than 700 missiles were sent from Syria to Turkey, and more than 300 people were killed by them. And we have to remember also the close link between the PYD terrorist organization and Daesh terrorist organization. If you refresh your mind, you will remember that the Daesh terrorist organization who were taken out from Raqqa were under the control of the PYD and YPG terrorist organization. So you can see also a close link. And if someone says that the PYD is just fighting against the Daesh, this is not the truth. You cannot just use a terrorist organization against another terrorist organization. Last but not least, we are also seeing the FETÖ terrorist organization. The FETÖ terrorist organization is a new dimension, is a very sophisticated terrorist organization, a new area of a terrorist organization, which we don't know or which we didn't know. And therefore it's also not very easy for many European countries to understand this sophisticated new terrorist organization, because they have a hidden agenda, they conceal themselves, they show themselves as someone who devotes himself or herself for education, for culture. They have media outlets, they have trade unions, and they try to infiltrate in political spheres in order to become active and to affect also the political parties as well as the politicians. So there are, in a way, show themselves as an interest group, but actually they want to capture the state. And they started to capture the state after they infiltrated in the military, in the judiciary, as well as the police department. There was a leader in Turkey, there is a leader still in Turkey called Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He started to fight against those terrorist organizations in a political way. After they saw they could not defeat this leader, they decided to make the coup attempt in Turkey on 15 July 2016. These terrorist organizations differ itself regarding the coup attempt in two ways. The first one is, in the Turkish history, for the first time, a terrorist organization started a coup attempt. They had a section in the military who has been controlled by the so-called cleric, FETÖ, and he gave the order to start the military coup attempt. It was not given by the high-ranking military personnel, but by the so-called cleric. So for the first time, a terrorist organization started a coup attempt in Turkey. The second one is, we had also many coup attempts before 15 July, but none of those had bombed the Grand National Assembly. None of those had bombed the presidential sphere. None of those had killed 251 persons. More than 2,600 persons were also injured. And one of those people are here today. So, what we are trying to say is that we have to be very careful against the last one, because they have a hidden agenda, and those people have also many properties and many possibilities outside of Turkey. And I have to say that those people outside of Turkey have also a very wide-field area in Britain as well. So we are also very sad about our British colleagues and try to explain how dangerous this terrorist organization is, not just for Turkey, but also for our friends in Europe and also Britain. So I want to just conclude my speech by saying that we have to find a unified approach regarding these terrorist organizations. Because those terrorist organizations are not just harmful for a particular country, but for all democratic countries as well. Maybe they occur in Middle East. Maybe they are not just at the first stage, not just a threat for the European countries, but we have to see that sooner or later they will also be a potential threat for the other countries, just like Turkey. And the second one is that we have to distinguish between the terrorist organization and between the ethnicity, between religion, between particular groups. We should not just call a terrorist organization with the religion together. We should not call a terrorist organization with the label Islam, or with the label Christianity, or with the label Jewish. What occurred in New Zealand, we have all witnessed it. 52 people were killed within the mosque by a terrorist. And after 2 months, maybe the same occurred also in another country, in Sri Lanka. have to see that those terrorist organizations are the enemy of humankind, and we have to have a common approach. Last but not least, I want to say that during the 15th July coup attempt, the European Turkish people also showed their support and their solidarity with the Turkish people in Turkey by gathering before the Turkish embassy. I think the same was also valid in Britain. And I'm proud to be a part of the European people and the European Turkish people. And once again, I will express my thankfulness in front of you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zafer Sırakaya, for your speech. You have summarized the dangers that Turkey is facing from these three terrorist organizations, and that Turkey's approach for a principled approach from Europe, especially when countering these terrorist organizations, but at the same time that FETÖ is a non-conventional terrorist organization which we are not really used to, so it's not a normal, not a conventional terrorist organization. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ambassador Ümit Yalçın. The floor is yours, Mr. Ambassador.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I would like to start my words by thanking Union of International Democrats to provide us with this opportunity to talk on 15th of July coup attempt on the third anniversary of commemoration. And also I want to thank Istanbul MP Mr. Sırakaya for his informative and enlightening speech, which gave us historical aspect of the coup attempt and also the terrorist aspect of coup attempt and the FETÖ terrorist organization. 3 years have passed since the 15th of July coup attempt carried out by FETÖ terrorist organization, and 15th of July coup attempt was very known that planned by FETÖ leadership and carried out by members of that heinous organization, whom infiltrated into our army by disobeying the chain of command of the armed forces. As the MP mentioned in his speech, that this hideous act constitutes the deadliest terrorist attack that Turkey has ever experienced. We have never before witnessed such savagery and treachery in our history as the one exhibited by the perpetrators of this coup attempt. Our parliament building, presidential complex, the building of National Intelligence Organization, buildings of the Turkish National Police, the headquarters of the Police Special Operations Department located in Ankara were bombed by rogue pilots. Tanks were driven to the streets to mow down innocent civilians, while helicopters and jets dropped bombs from the air and shot everyone inside. These traitors, disguised as soldiers, did not shy away from bombing their brothers in arms. I remember that night I was the acting permanent undersecretary of the ministry, and it was very tragic for me to explain my 8-year-old son that those guys are not from our army, but those guys are traitors within the army. That night 251 citizens were killed and more than 3,000 people were injured. The 15th of July coup attempt revealed the grave threat posed by the FETÖ terrorist organization against our state, against our democracy, against our people. In order to fully understand all aspects of the 15th of July coup attempt, it's imperative to consider this dark network, beginning from schools and prep schools established over the last few decades by FETÖ. By brainwashing young minds at schools founded under the disguise of so-called training activities, by indoctrinating a large group of radical followers who carried out the instructions of the organization's leadership unquestioningly and violated all legal and moral norms. Graduates of these schools were able to infiltrate the most critical institutions of the state by stealing exam questions. Furthermore, those considered as an obstacle to the organization were treacherously eliminated as FETÖ conspired against them. FETÖ strengthened its economic and political influence by abusing the state's resources and authority for the wide interests of the organization. On the 15th of July, we were able to grasp the sheer size of the secret structure established by FETÖ within our most critical institution, the Turkish Armed Forces. The Turkish people who have stood against this horrific threat have fervently and courageously demonstrated to the world that they did not recognize any power over their will and stood ready to sacrifice their lives to protect their state and the democratic system. In the past 3 years, the fight against FETÖ both inside and outside of Turkey has constituted one of the main priorities of our state. Within Turkey, our efforts are being conducted under 3 main pillars. Firstly, on the basis of the rule of law, the perpetrators of the 15th of July coup attempt have been brought to justice. Secondly, FETÖ's organizational structure within governmental institutions has been unveiled. Administrative and judicial procedures have been initiated against its members, and hence the parallel state structure has been brought down. And thirdly, apart from those within the government institutions, FETÖ's attempts to spread across all areas of the economy via its shared entities, particularly in the education, media, and banking sectors have been thwarted. Despite facing extraordinary security challenges, we have been able to successfully conduct our fight at home in compliance with the principles of the rule of law and fundamental rights and freedoms. We have also expanded efforts to avoid grievances and established new mechanisms to examine and settle alleged grievances, like extraordinary inquiry commission. As these developments took place, FETÖ has undergone a significant transformation. The organization, which lost its backbone in Turkey, is now trying to survive by making use of its structure abroad. Thus, fighting against the structures of FETÖ abroad has gained significance. The fight against FETÖ structures abroad has been among the top priorities of Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The outline of our efforts can be summarized as follows. The main objective of our efforts to demonstrate and prove the fact that FETÖ also poses a threat to the security of other countries where it remains active. In this regard, the concrete examples gathered indicate that FETÖ does not hesitate to violate laws by acting almost like a secretive intelligence, and points out to the fact that it aims to establish political and economic zones of influence that permits the creation of structures similar to those in Turkey and other countries that it has spread to since the 1990s. Moreover, we have taken administrative measures and initiated legal proceedings to limit the maneuvering space of FETÖ terrorist organization abroad, and to prevent its members from transferring money and escaping justice. Within the scope of investigation conducted in Turkey, we have requested the extradition of the main ringleaders of the structures of FETÖ abroad from the countries where the persons are located. The Turkish Marif Foundation maintains its activities all around the world to prevent any shortfalls resulting from the steps taken against FETÖ, especially in the field of education. With the contribution of our missions abroad that implement intensive efforts within the framework summarized above, we are gaining traction and getting concrete results. Most importantly, the international community is gradually understanding that the FETÖ is not a social movement that engages with education and charity, contrary to the way it tries to portray itself, but rather a dark and insidious organization with political and economic ambitions. A clear awareness regarding the characteristics of the organization has developed among public opinions abroad. Various countries and international organizations have declared FETÖ as a terrorist organization. In this context, FETÖ was declared as a terrorist organization by the Council of Foreign Ministers of the OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Similar resolution was written at the Asian Parliamentary Assembly in 2016 and ratified in the Conference of Parliamentary Union of the OIC in 2017. In addition to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, the Supreme Court of Pakistan declared FETÖ a terrorist organization with the verdict on December 2018. The awareness raised regarding FETÖ in third countries has also stimulated closer monitoring and investigation of the activities related to these elements by officials of the aforementioned countries. Unlawful acts carried out by FETÖ terrorist organization and its affiliated organizations have thus been revealed in various countries. The members of the organization have been deported accordingly. In addition to those deported to third countries, more than 110 FETÖ members from over 20 countries have been extradited to Turkey. The Turkish Marif Foundation has taken over FETÖ-affiliated schools in 18 countries. The activities of FETÖ-affiliated schools and language courses have been terminated in 36 countries. Our efforts have increased the pressure on the members of the organization living abroad, and there has been a serious constriction within the structuring of the organization abroad along with its capabilities. The number of FETÖ members attempting to escape the countries in which they are acting has been on the rise, particularly in Africa. While experiencing a visible disruption in its global network, the organization still strives to make up victimization stories by resorting to unfounded news through the use of the existing media outlets. It also attempts to strengthen cooperation with circles hostile to Turkey by using PR and lobbying methods. Our efforts for fully eliminating the structures of FETÖ abroad constitutes a long-term fight. The Turkish government will resolutely maintain its efforts in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And without taking much time, also I would like to give the floor to Mr. Abdurrahim Boynukalın, Parti representative in London. The floor is yours. I would like to also add that he has another meeting and he has to leave early.
Thank you. Dear friends, comrades, guests and members of the press, let me greet with the best of greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon all. I greet you with this greeting of peace as we are living in an increasingly violent, troublesome world where conflicts, wars, distrust and tensions dominate our politics, our media headlines and international relations. I'm your brother, Abdurrahim and I represent the Party in UK, which was installed very recently. I would like to thank the organizers, UID, for convening this important and timely gathering today. I would like to also extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone present here today. You are here because you are either concerned about the coup attempt of 2016, or you are interested in finding out more. For most of you, I believe you are here to support and solidarity with the victims of the coup and with the great nation of Turkey. Thank you for your being here. I've been asked to say a few words about the unfortunate and devastating coup of 2016 in our beloved Turkey. It's exactly 3 years now today since the bloody coup. Like fellow Turks here, it pains me very much thinking about what had happened 3 years ago. The images of destruction, devastation, and carnage are ever vivid and indelible. Our parliament, the greatest symbol of democracy, was bombed whilst people were in there. The presidential complex was attacked. The headquarters of police force was shelled. The National Intelligence Agency was attacked. Various media outlets such as TRT were overtaken on gunpoint, and newscasters were forced to read stories given to them by the coup plotters. Our bridges were attacked. Our mothers, daughters, and wives stood in front of tanks and coup plotters to stop the attacks. Innocent civilians who came out to defend the country were gunned down in cold blood. Nearly 300 people perished, many thousands were injured and scared for life. My friends, what I have just listed is not the making of a fictional crude joke. Nor are these scenes from an American thriller such as Black Hawk Down. This is exactly what had happened only 3 years ago in our beloved country, Turkey. Istanbul, the world metropolis, and the city of tourism, heritage and culture was under attack. One would usually associate such barbarity and sheer scale of attacks with foreign enemies, but sadly, this was orchestrated, masterminded, and executed by the enemy within. These were Turks, who it seems have no love or concern for fellow Turks, or the country including its great institutions. By their very actions, they have devalued themselves and they can only be regarded as the enemies of the state and the people of Turkey. I'm sure you know who the attackers were. They were the blind followers of the Fethullah Gülen, who resides in the USA. As for the accusations that Turkey is overreacting to the coup, I asked Prime Minister May here, in London, or the leaders of the European countries, how they would respond should a coup of the scale in Turkey would take place in the soils of Europe. France issued a state of emergency that lasted 1 year following the Nice attacks, and similar measures were in place in other European countries. Here in London, we are still reeling from the 7/7 and other attacks which, compared to the coup in Turkey, is minuscule. Despite this, there is evidence of the UK security services engaging in excessive use of the CST apparatus, such as detaining people illegally, spying, and surveillance, even in schools, youth clubs, and nurseries, targeting individuals and groups with the taint of extremism and terrorism, and so much more. We are increasingly becoming a police state here in Britain. British Muslims are now seen to be the prism of security and terrorism, and the prevent strategy disproportionately targets Muslims and Islamic institutions. Time does not permit to go in detail, but I'm sure many of you by now who Fethullah Gülen is and his movement. Allow me to briefly say a little about this sinister and speculative movement. The Gülen movement, or the community, as is known, is built around one man, Fethullah Gülen. His followers venerate him not just as a learned cleric, but the awaited one. He is likened to the Mahdi, the Islamic version of the Messiah, who will save the Muslim world and ultimately the world itself. Many of Fethullah's followers also believe that he sees the Prophet Muhammad in his dreams and receives orders from him. Fethullah's unquestionably authority, another key feature for the movement, is its cultish hierarchy. The movement is structured like a pyramid. Top-level imams give orders to the second-level imams, who give orders to third-level imams, and it goes on like that to the grassroots. The movement's activities include opening schools, running charities that provide social services to the poor, and maintaining dialogue centers that preach love, tolerance, and peace. But there is a darker side of the movement, and few of its members know it as it is. For decades, it has been infiltrating Turkish state's institutions, the police, judiciary, and military. His followers take orders from the imams, hide their identities, and try to rise through these institutions in order to capture state power. And this is how they executed the failed coup in 2016. Friends and comrades, as we mark the 3rd anniversary of the 15th July coup attempt in Turkey, let me remind you that millions of Turkish citizens set aside their political, cultural, and ethnic differences to form a united front against the plotters who try to destroy our beloved country. The attackers were trying to rob our people of democracy, liberty, and our way of life. But we have collectively spoken out against this barbarity and stood in unison to defend Turkey. All the political parties took a principled stance against the coup. They did so in the spirit of responsibility and maturity, which gives us great confidence and hope for the future of our democracy and political system. Clearly, the coup was an illegitimate attempt at harming Turkish democracy. However, Turkish people bravely stood against this attempt in unity and solidarity and proved their faith in democratic values and individual liberties. Let us remember the 300 or so people who lost their lives and more than 2,100 people injured. Our prayers go out to all of them and their grieving families. As we are gathered here today in London, I should perhaps reflect on the role and the response of the international community following the coup, in particular Europe. The response from the UK, USA and European democracies to the coup in Turkey, which can be likened to America's 9/11 and London's 7/7, in terms of scale and devastation was sadly very disappointing. The response was mostly lukewarm, slow, and in most cases was absent. The Turkish people expected full support from Western countries as they learned too well the impact and effects of terrorism domestically in recent years. To our shock and surprise, the little condemnations of the coup that came with the warnings for Turkey to respect the rule of law and human rights when prosecuting the coup plotters. Such is the insensitivity and lack of empathy. Some in Western media and political circles took it a step further and accused our president of staging the coup for political agenda. Pathetic as it is, this was the reality at the time. Our allies downplayed the severity of the coup when we lost so many innocent civilians, instead making accusations against the government about witch hunts and purges. We expected our European partners to stand for justice and pro-democracy forces from the outset. We expected a real condemnation of the coup from the international community and for them to lend support for Turkish democracy. Instead, the chatter in the Western circles were dominated by questioning Turkey's EU accession bit right after the deadly coup. This really was a new law in diplomatic relations. Unlike other terrorists who are rightly condemned by all, there was little of that when it came to the Gülenists who orchestrated the coup in Turkey. Many families lost their loved ones and people are demanding justice. In Turkey, we have a fully functioning judiciary and those detained suspected of involving in the coup are being tried in a fair and transparent system. The accusations that Turkey is abusing the system or not according to the suspects their due process is inaccurate. We expect all our European partners to stand firmly against this illegitimate coup attempt. We want to see our European partners stand by us in our rightful fight against terror threats. We invite leaders and delegations from the EU and Europe to visit Turkey and show solidarity with the Turkish people. We also invite all to come and see the places that were attacked and meet the victims and their families so they get a real picture of the impact and suffering inflicted on Turks and the country. It's a shame that EU officials say one thing to condemn the coup and 10 things to criticize the Turkish government for going after the Gülenist coup plotters. We also urge Europeans to understand the depth of the Fethullah Gülen threat in Turkey and its potential threat to regional and global stability. Like the PKK, the Gülenists are abusing the legal and political system in Europe and the US for their own protection. While they present themselves as peaceful educators, their dark side has become apparent even before the coup attempts. Finally, we hope the powers in Europe and the rest of the world show greater degree of understanding and appreciation of the impact of the coup in our great country. We can't turn a blind eye to these facts and show selective solidarity when it comes to terrorism wherever it rears its ugly head. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boynukalın, for this enlightened speech. And now we have our last speaker. As I mentioned in the beginning, he was injured during the coup attempt in Atatürk Airport, Mr. Enes Babacan, and he will give his
8 months. If I will make a mistake, please forgive me. Firstly, I would like to thank the Turkish Embassy and International Union of Democrats for inviting me this event. Today, I would like to tell you about the moments I experienced during the coup attempt 15 July 2016. A journalist who has named Mustafa Canbaz was murdered in the July 5th coup attempt, and I am the only journalist that time. And Mustafa Canbaz really, my friends. That time Mustafa Canbaz murdered, and I was veteran. As usual, I came home after finishing work that day. Then we had dinner with my sister. When we were talking with her, the telephone started around nearly 9 p.m. At that time, our Mr. Chigayder, the editor-in-chief, Milat newspaper, called me. He told me to turn on TV. There is an act of terrorism. Let's take action immediately. Soon after, the soldiers took control of Bosporus Bridge and airport and many critical points in Istanbul. Some of my friends from Ankara said it was a coup attempt, and I immediately called the managers of the newspaper, and I told them that was a coup attempt. I live at 10 minutes far from Atatürk Airport, and I prayed. I told my sister, please, you read the Quran, and you pray for Erdogan and for homeland. Please, you never forgot history, Erdogan and Mendes. I have seen Then I went out of the house. I've seen pivotal people out on the street like me. We are starting scanning of defy what happened. There were still people who didn't understand what's going on. I told them, the Fethullah soldiers want a coup. If they love their homeland, they should walk to airport for Allah and for Erdogan. 5 minutes later, we started walking towards Atatürk Airport with a small group, maybe 12 people. The crowd started to increase, and we were about 14 people. When we arrived at the airport, the coup soldiers were waiting at the gate. When we said this wasn't a drill, because there were soldiers who were yet not aware of the situation, they asked me why I'm here. Some soldiers go into the tanks and retired. But some of the soldiers said they would shoot if we enter the airport. But we didn't stop. So we all marched to those soldiers. They also targeted their weapons. We were trying to march to the soldiers with the slogans and always said Allahu Akbar and Erdogan and homeland. Then the soldiers began to retreat. I witnessed some soldiers trying to escape, crushing innocent people with tanks. You won't believe it, I know. It's very difficult. But we were resisting the armed soldiers with Turkish flags and even cashing them. When we entered the airport, we noticed that the soldiers beat some of tourists and our citizens. We tried to help them. Meanwhile, some friends talk about President Erdogan call on the television, and he has inviting his people to the street. Yes, we were out in the street before Erdogan called, but we were happy to hear that. When we know that we are afraid, never afraid, and we right to the end. Then we have learned Erdogan will come to the Istanbul, and his plan will land at Atatürk Airport. Then we started to run towards Atatürk Airport runways, but the soldiers on both the runways and the flying tower started shooting us. A 16-year-old boy was killed in the front of me. The boy named Malik Ayabak from Bitlis. But we didn't stop. We started walking towards the soldiers who took cover with their vehicles. Then the soldiers started fighting more often. We just wanted to run. I just wanted to run to young man who just shoot, and I was shoot over my heart, right over my heart and my left arm. When I woke up, I was in front of the airport. Then I fainted again. I was in the ambulance the next time I woke up. At that time, there were 2 more people in the ambulance. They were martyred. The nurse told me, please not sleep, please not sleep. Because if I sleep, I die martyred. But that time I couldn't feel my left arm. I lost a lot of blood. And I was wearing the Fenerbahce uniform. I see, change color, Galatasaray. I never forgot that time. While trying to get to the hospital, the coup soldiers opened fire on the ambulance several times. We had to go to another ambulance. I was lucky because I couldn't bleed, but I could bleed to death that night. When I woke up the next day morning, there was a doctor. Honestly, I tell you, I feel that time. I'm artist, and here is maybe my language is Janet, and English name Paradise. But no. I asked the doctor where I was. The coup was taken in the place, and for me it's a very important question. Does Erdogan alive? The doctor told me, calm down first. And then smiled and said, for me this is very, very honor for Turkey. There are so many crazy people like you in this country, don't worry. The coup didn't happen, and everyone is alive and in Istanbul now. And then, after I said, Alhamdulillah. In short, I want to tell you this, Fethullah Gülen terrorist organization shoot us with our own weapons. We had very difficult victory that night. We have a lot of different idea, different lifestyle, but we can live together in Turkey. Because we are Turkish, because we wake up that night again. Because we have only one homeland, one leader, and we will protect it at the expense of our lives. The soldiers who attempted the coup, they were not our soldiers. Our army is the oldest army in the world. We have army and national tradition. If you ask young Turkish people, men and women, child, everybody, in the imagine will be police and army. Therefore, it's an honor for us to be martyrs and veterans. If we don't want our children and our people killed, we have to fight all terrorist organizations like FETÖ, PKK, and Daesh, and UTA all together. We Turkish ended that night with victory, but we will never forget those who were with us that night, and after that night, who were not with us. Thank you for listening to me.
It's always difficult to hear these stories. Last year I was in Berlin. There was a police chief and he was also shot that night. And yeah, I was also on the street and still remember. And I think many in Europe, the West doesn't really understand the psychology of Turkish people, what happened that night. So the main feeling among the Turkish population was that we don't deserve this. We are not a country in which you can carry out coup attempts and bomb your parliament or police headquarters or shoot at people with the tanks, as it happened on the bridge, on Bosporus Bridge. So immediately after the coup, we started to see in the Western media that the people were accused who were resisting the coup, or the government has been accused of carrying out a purge without first questioning the perpetrators of the coup attempt, which is the Fethullah Gülen terrorist organization. So Europe being, the West being the promoter of democracy in the third world, in the East, whatever, they have a responsibility in the first place to acknowledge who has carried out this crime. So it is the FETÖ, it's the Gülenist terrorist organization, and there has to be a questioning of the FETÖ and their activities, and then we can discuss about what happened afterwards, right? There can be criticism all the time, and this is being discussed in Turkey, the measures taken in Turkey, are they right enough, or any wrongdoings being done? And if there are any wrongdoings, there are also due processes that this can be reversed, and this is happening. But I see that the only United Kingdom, and the former ambassador to Turkey, UK's ambassador, Richard Moore, he acknowledged that the FETÖ was responsible for the coup attempt, but he said we don't see or acknowledge FETÖ as a terrorist organization. So here I can see, as a political analyst, that it's a political decision. That the many European countries, they don't want, first in the first place, they don't want to acknowledge that it was the FETÖ who carried out the coup attempt, and secondly, they don't recognize FETÖ as a terrorist organization. So those countries who don't acknowledge these two facts, they don't have any moral authority to question anything happened after that. That's my position, and that's why there is this also high tension, mostly, unfortunately, between Turkey and Western countries when it comes to the FETÖ. And the fact that the leader of FETÖ still lives in the United States without any process, without any hindrance, is an insult to Turkish people in the first place, and the people who has resisted the coup and the whole Turkish nation. So I hope that these events will help us to increase the information or the information about what has happened in Turkey, and then there will be some questioning about FETÖ. and their activities in the UK, in Germany, all around Europe, also in the United States. So we have a video prepared by UID about the coup attempt. We will watch this video and then we will close our panel. Maybe we will have also some questions if we have still time, and then we can close. Thank you very much. I think the pictures